Greetings there. I didn't see you come in. Come, take a seat. Allow me to give some quick explanations. My name is the Guide, and I am the overseer of GL and the destiny of the adventurers within. And I'm here just to quickly give a quick summary. Well, quick, it's probably going to be quite long actually, but several of these sessions, as we like to call them, have been missed. Sessions of the Devil Darlings. Or as they used to be known, the Shit Squad, but that's between us. But still, what would one give for a favour? For a favour from the gods, no less. A favour that could be almost anything. Bring back a loved one, find a loved one, become rich, wealthy, famous, powerful. Some people would give almost anything for it. And yet, for these chosen few, they have been given their chance to prove themselves to the gods, to earn a single favour. All they have to do is reclaim the Citadel, a city built long ago in the depths of an island named GL, one that has been sealed away for countless millennia, all because of the actions of one person. Of course, what is a group without members? To that end, I feel like it's time to introduce you to some of our key players here. First up, we have Trickstem, a Tiefling sorcerer, a traveling conman come bounty hunter, one who holds somewhat of a tragic past, but you'd never know it by looking at him. Then again, what adventurers don't hold a tragic past nowadays? Next up, Krinlok, the Tiefling cleric. You'll have to forgive their voice. They've got quite a unique way of talking, but it matches their personality, I guess. Still, they can be one of the most level-headed members of the group. And if they aren't being the level-headed one, then Pixie certainly is. A child of royalty who had it all stripped away on one fateful day, only to return years later, a rogue looking for her place in the world. Following on from them is Fran, a kobold ranger, one searching for her missing sisters. Life on the high seas has prepared her, but is she truly prepared for what lays ahead? Following on the reptilian line, Vashk, the lizard folk fighter. Not much is known of his history, but he isn't shy of saying he has murdered in the past. Who knows what his reasons are for? Next would be Samara, the dragonborn Eldrich knight. One that also keeps her past to herself. An outcast. One who really doesn't seem to be much of a team player at first. We shall see how the growth goes. At least they have a dingo to keep themselves company. Then we have Oni, the Tiefling samurai, the tragic prince. The sights he has seen are only matched by the sights he hasn't seen but gnolls he caused. Do not feel too much pity for him, though, for he seems to be getting along just fine, at least on the surface. Last but not least in our party, Codi Loopneck, the Namr. Quite an unusual race, the Namr. Little fluffy devils that thrive on pranks and emotions. Don't let your small size underestimate you. Underestimate you, is that a word? Still, don't let her looks underestimate her danger. For she is a TitanMauler, and her hammers are almost as large as she is. So have fun with that if you ever get in combat with her. Now that our players are introduced, let us go over our sessions. Session 1. After the group had all received a strange golden letter after having dreams and visions of various gods telling them to converge at a shrine called the Temple of Convergence. The group all found their way there, one by one. Some with a bit more effect than others, especially given upon Codi's arrival, the caravan she was clinging to the back of almost near crashed and fell off the cliffside. Luckily Pixie was there to help the shaken residents within. And then they entered, after showing their letters, to come face to face with the gods themselves, of all different pantheons, lines, and even all different gods, ranging from lawful good to chaotic evil. All were welcome. There they learned of their task, to free that which had been taken so long ago. Doing so would earn them one single favor, a wish from the gods. Granted, given the party and their first meeting, there was some commotion between them, mainly between Krinlok and Codi, which Codi's mother, the Shadow Mother, didn't take too kindly to. Krinlok had best watch her back. Being told to board a ship at the docks, the group quickly travelled down there, only to find another crashed caravan in the water, which Raali quickly tried to claim as her own. Oh, that is correct. I forgot to mention Raali. The unusual kobold. Skittery, jittery. Quite the scaredy cat if you ever saw one. Scales of red and tan and white, with an unusual presence lurking about them. Probably why I forgot to mention him. Just the mere mention can bring down. Does anyone else feel like they're being watched? Probably just my imagination. After Raali tried to take the caravan for herself, she got a bit of a spook from its previous tenant and current tenant, a lone skeleton, one of Codi's previous victims. After the group found their way to the ship they needed to take, ship piloted by two wyverns, unusually with quite common names, Billy and Bob. The group set sail. Session 2. Upon sailing on the high seas, the group were introduced to other members of the crew, mainly the orc cook, Kagan, and his Pelezi, that's a kind of axolotl-like race, his Pelezi daughter, Gonk. Unusual name, I know, but I guess that's either Pelezi tradition, or maybe Kagan just wasn't very imaginative. Who knows? After getting some rest, the group converged for breakfast, with Raali, of course, being a bit distracted, what with stepping on some laid-out caltrops. Upon sensing her prey's pain and fear, Codi quickly ran to feed on her. Oh, I should mention, Namr have a tendency to feed on people's emotions. Actual food not on sick, but you'll see about that later. With her fear gone, Raali quickly took to the dining room and stole what food she could. With some of the group giving chase, the boat was rocked back and forth with vicious waves as they made their way topside to find themselves face to face with the all-powerful sea serpent Valina, who was quite angry, not just at the party, but at the way most sailors have been treating her seas nowadays. She made the party promise to try and get the seas protected, and that they would need to contact the water elemental Undine. With the group regathering back below deck, Codi tried to put the fear in Krinlok once more, via pranks involving ball bearings in the bed and water through a crack in the wall. With it not working too well this time, unfortunately, Codi, along with Raali, swore that they would pull the ultimate prank. With the land looming ahead, the group prepared to land on GL. Session 3. The group finally arrived in the port-sized town of Turtle Bay Landing, spending their first night in the local tavern named the Turtle Shell. Things quickly went south in the morning, of course, after the group learned of a bout of thefts, which the law enforcement, a hive mind of gargoyles all named Gritef, took Codi as being the main suspect for, due to the suspect being named as furry, fluffy, animalistic, yet cute in an odd way. After her name was cleared, of course, by the group, Pixie noticed her map had been stolen, and the group followed a trail of fur Trickstem had picked up on, towards the nearby swamp, Trestle Swamp. Found a group of rat-monkey-like creatures named Fruzols to be the cause. After the group's first epic battle together, which saw several of them almost hanged by the Fruzols' long tails, the group was dispatched, all aside from one, as Codi asserted her dominance over the last remaining Fruzol. The group were met by A dashing figure. Myself, of course. Session 4. After Codi managed to tame freely, well, taming is a mild word to put it, it's more a case of, I'm the alpha now, I believe her words were. I gave them advice on reaching the Citadel, and that perhaps they could do with a bit more money, as well as to do some good deeds around, informing them that the arena was about to reopen. The group made their way over there, meeting Samara along the way, someone that had been part of a previous team of mine. As they entered the arena, with Krinlok, the new Fruzol named Freely, and Thorn sitting out the battle, the group were allowed to introduce themselves to the world for the first time. Unfortunately, they decided on the name The Shit Squad. Name pending, of course. And then they met their opponents. An already established arena team of Axel, the fighter Null, Jazo, the Kingfisher Bird Folk ninja, Rorm, the Goblin Ranger, and Plauk, the Monkey Goblin ninja. Teaming up with them was Chris, a human monk, Fopi, a gnome ranger, and Nim, a Molu fighter. For those that don't know what a Molu is, think a large slug person. You're along the right lines. The battle began, and both sides got some good hits in. Despite Codi being knocked out due to being blocked in by the rest of her party, and Raali getting blinded in one eye from a shot by Fopi, I believe, the group were victorious. Session 5. After being paid in full and getting healed up, with Codi falling somewhat ill after the group realized Namr cannot have normal food. That also includes potions. The group decided to do a bit of shopping and a bit of nosing around Turtle Bay Landing, while Codi decided not to feed after an argument with Pixie. Krinlok Anoni, meanwhile, was asked to ask around Turtle Bay Landing about the Citadel. Among their shopping, certain items were found, such as a magical taunting sword, my apologies, Tongi. My words are failing me. Are we keeping these all in? We're keeping all these in. That's a little blooper for you. A magical taunting sword was bought by Trickstem, as well as him earning a date from the somewhat buff Tiefling blacksmith. A sentient hat was bought by Codi. A hat which, if left with other hats, could breed and make brand new hats. Unusual, I know, but that's magic for you. An eye patch for Raali, and matching outfits for Codi and Freely, with the team's new name and insignia embossed on the back. The Devil Darlings. Much better name than the Shit Squad, I know, but I know Trickstem holds that name dear. After those purchases, the party made their way to the job board. Session 6. Deciding to pass upon a difficult job in the Howling Forest, a nearby forest which had reportedly had some issues with missing people, the group decided on a nice easy job first, rescuing a stuck cat in a tree in Turtle Bay. The cat belonged to the town's resident gnome, and the musical instrument seller Mitty. The group managed to save it after some slight slip-ups from Trickstem, and got paid for the job before taking on a second job posted by Chris, asking for their help in stopping smugglers from stealing the children of his friend, to whom he only referred to as T. As they made their way towards the hidden docks behind the gaping maw, a giant's cave in the shape of a skull. With Codi becoming weaker and weaker due to starvation, the group conversed, with Trickstem hitting a gill woman in the head accidentally with a rock as he skimmed stones across the nearby river. Pixie tried to converse with Codi about her state, only for Codi to flee in frustration into the gaping maw. Following close behind, the group found the smuggler captain and two of his cohorts, who were quickly alerted to the group as Codi hid, with Trickstem trying to calm her down. With one cohort going to check on Codi, only to mistake her for an innocent little rabbit. Granted, he then quickly paid the price with one massive wallop to the back of the skull. The other cohort was dealt with in a more unusual way. Trickstem's intentionally bad flirting made the other cohort too awkward to continue discussions, and fled to join the rest at the docks. The captain quickly tried to follow, only to be captured by Freely and the rest, with him quickly trying to pull out a dagger, only to find his wrist impaled on Pixie's dagger. Codi threatened him with a most unusual way. I believe her wording was, "I'll break off your twigs and leave the berries." I think you can picture what that means. With that threat given, the Devil Darlings were led to the docks, as the rest of the crew dropped their weapons to save their captain from a most painful fate. After giving up the children, Samara went to check on the crate, only to find not humans or any other humanoid race, but baby ice dragons. As the group conversed in confusion, a massive shadow descended upon them, as Tundra, the ice dragon of the mountain, landed behind them. The smugglers fled on the ship, as their captain was fed to the babies. Happy that her children were safe once more, Tundra gifted the group gemstones each, before telling them that if they wanted to meet Undine, they will need the Guildfolk of Bongeg's help. Session 7. With Tundra leaving, Trickstem decided to check upon Krinlok, passing Oni as he returned to the group with no new information. Oni getting a quick summary of what had happened so far, decided that Pixie was the cause of Codi's current starvation, and quickly threw her into the river. As she pulled herself out, the group decided to continue up towards the Guildfolk village of Bongag. I know you're sniggering in the background. It sounds like a bong, but maybe it means something in their language. You never know. Following on, the group realized that Bongag was half submerged due to it being a Guildfolk town and all. And Codi has quite the issue with water, in that she can't swim and she sinks like a brick. Care was therefore given in carrying the smaller members over the water, although Freely did struggle with a very nervous Codi on his back. Eventually reaching the tavern, named the Hidden Retreat, they met the bartender, Divana, who, as luck would just so have it, was the gill woman that was previously bonked on the head by a skimming stone. Annoyed by the party, she seemed unlikely to help, and almost as annoyed with Codi's badgering of her, she still managed to set them up with a room for the night, mainly due to a guard stepping in and helping set up an appointment for the next day with the king. As the group woke up, Codi decided to take her chances, quickly trying to befriend Divana before feeding off her. As the large group were escorted to meet King Utizuze. Seriously, what's up with the Skillfolk name? Yeah, I felt so. Yes, it's their language. There, the party were gifted with magical scrolls that could create a temporary underwater transport in the form of a large bubble. In return, the king asked for a favor from the group. One of his prisoners, his previous advisor named Krezoe, had somehow escaped and was last sighted heading towards the kobold village of the Misty Path. With instructions to bring him back, the group headed out, but not before Raali tried to bite a koi Piscean, like a fish person. Oni quickly tried to clear up the mistake, only for the group to be interrupted by the most handsome robed figure once more. Me, of course. Atop my glorious, inflatable, floating device in the shape of a griffin. Hey, someone has to help Codi across. Why not? Unfortunately, she had the bad luck of running it into another Piscean, a pufferfish Piscean, who popped the inflatable, quickly sinking towards the bottom of the river. Pixie dove in to save her, using up her scroll to save the Namr. As an act of, do you forgive me, I suppose? After getting everyone safely back to shore, the group made their way to the Misty Path village, with Codi noticing a large, ominous figure in the bushes nearby. So that even made her pause and go, no. That was a bad impression of Codi. After being stopped by the local kobolds of the village and being told of the corruption, the corruption, a vile human-made plague that spread around the island years ago that Krezoe had some hand in, the group found the storage of the cure looted and the cure destroyed. Yet all would not be lost, as a secret underground tunnel acted as a location for the cure making. While investigating it, however, Pixie realized that if you don't have dark vision, you really should light a torch, as she was ambushed and bitten by a large spider-like creature. The abominations and the corruption had made all those years back had returned in a new arachnid form. Session 8. Meanwhile, back in Turtle Bay Landing, something a bit more light-hearted. Krinlok and Trickstem came across a turtle shell in the basement of the Turtle Shell Tavern. After avoiding having her fingers bitten off after trying to reclaim her holy symbol by a grumpy Fukugwe. Oh, I have stories to tell on him, but some other time. The duo met who else? Me, who informed them that their friends were in danger. So yeah, I told you these little golden orbs, they come in handy. Using my quick travel through, well, here, my side dimension, they managed to arrive in the Misty Path village, and they made it to the fight to help the rest take on these spider abominations. Meanwhile, Pixie was hearing a voice in her head, an oddly soothing voice, telling her to stop fighting and even trying to strike at her friends, yet she muscled up the willpower to ignore it. Defeating the spider creatures, the group found a thin bridge. While most made it across fine, Krinlok slipped and almost fell to her death, but Codi managed to quickly pull her up to her safety. That is when the group met Origin, a cogwork construct head atop machinery that was pumping out the cure, but was gunked and webbed up by the spider abominations. The group quickly worked to free him, and provided him with a sample of the new corruption via one of the spider's glands. Origin told him the cure would be ready the next day, and that the group should rest up for the night. While trying to rest, however, Krinlok upset Codi, who was trying to feed on the bartender, Pringles. If you're wondering why he's called that, he's got an odd mustache. Codi fled to her hut, upset once more. Session 9. During the night, Trickstem and Oni tried to make peace with Codi, with Oni accidentally breaking off the cabin's door, which scared freely into Thorn's shack. However, the moment was quickly interrupted with the screams of the kobold scouts, as the group, aside from a sleeping Raali, Krinlok, and Vashk, prepared to battle more spider abominations, as well as a couple Fruzols who had followed, as the kobolds tried to defend their village, save their kidnapped friends, and calm down the local giant bees. With Pringles almost being choked to death by a Fruzol, the group had bigger issues, quite literally, as they spied the figure Codi had seen before in the bushes, a spider abomination, much bigger than any seen before. As the group tried to fight it off, it easily ripped open the roof of Raali's hut and infected her with one quick bite before being splattered by Codi's hammer, infecting Oni herself and freely with the splash. With Trickstem being bitten by the last one before it was cut down by Oni, the village had been saved, but now the voice spoke to the mole. Now, you're going to have to forgive me for this one because this one's going to go on for quite a while, but it's quite worthwhile to see a bit of past of the group. Also, forgive me if you hear a bit of gulping sounds. One does have to keep their vocal cords hydrated, even if they don't have vocal cords. Vocal magic, I guess? Session 10. With most of the group poisoned, the kobold's leader, Ray, performed a ritual that could link the minds of those there, allowing them to try and see into the voice's mind to learn about their next move. The downside, however, would be it wouldn't be as simple as choosing, as the ritual would move through all the memories of the infected. With an uninfected Thorn and Samara being able to see the visions, but their own safe, the group watched on. First, they were taken to a lone castle to see a young Pixie during the time of war, where she was separated from her mother, as her mother fought to protect her daughter against a group known as the Forsaken. Next came Codi's, a more light-hearted memory, showing Namr at play in Hell, with Codi trying to teach another Namr how to feed, which proved unsuccessful. Interestingly, the group watched on as the scene was depicted in an unusual, cartoony style, at which point they realized this was how Codi saw the world. If you want to know for yourself how that looks, think the old rubber banding cartoons of your world. The kind of Betty Boop, old Disney stuff. Next up was Raali's memories of her tormented past with the other kobolds picking on her due to her mixed scales, especially the white scales. Next was Trickstem's. With his failed mission alongside his partner Diesk, a lizard folk fighter, as they tried to stop a band of brigands and smugglers, only for the captain to catch Diesk sneaking aboard, cutting her arm off and tossing it down to Trickstem as he fled. Overcome with guilt, Trickstem curled up, with Codi offering to take the guilt away, to which he agreed. Next was Freely, a memory showing the Fruzels at play peacefully, showing they weren't always thieving pests. However, the playful banter was broken, as the forest was overrun by giant spiders before a large Drider appeared, tossing a defeated Alpha Fruzel to the ground, with a familiar voice claimed out loud, "You are my minions." Oni's vision was next, as it showed 4 figures arranging to fight to the death, to put an end to a civil war. The fight came down to brother versus brother, with Ikari, the tiefling now known as Oni, being victorious, only for the advisor to one of his opponents, Daedrus, revealing to have been the one behind the war and the fight, as his true demonic form was revealed, and Ikari was possessed, only to wake up much later in a destroyed village, cradling his dead wife. With the group's suffering laid out, the Drider's memories were finally shown, as she informed Krezoe to head to the destroyed city of Yarno, to distribute a particular strain of the corruption, one that had zombified the villagers of Yarno. With the Drider catching on, she quickly began to berate the group, only for all involved to be interrupted, with flashes of moving red and tan, before being cut through by a large white figure, the visions finally ending on one familiar large eye staring at the group as the visions ended, with Pixie and Raali shaken by what they had seen. They were quickly ushered to the tavern, known as the Rolling Pebble, as the group were given their cures. Some, albeit a bit more forcefully than others, with Trickstem being made to drink it by Oni after initially refusing, hoping that the power it could give him would help save the Esk, only to be put through a table for his hassle, and with Raali having to be sneakily injected with the cure by Pringles, due to having a fear of needles. Well, I know what that's like. Knowing their next location, the group headed to the next location. I said location twice, I should have said city. We're doing it live, we're doing it live. The city of Tome. Session 11. Upon arriving in Tome, the group quickly split up to see what the city had to offer. Oni purchased a new weapon, while Samara put her name down for an electric-enhanced sword. Trickstem, Codi, and Pixie quickly bumped into another name here playing pranks, going by the name Milo Flashbang. After some play fighting between Milo and Codi, the group parted ways, with Codi and Pixie heading to the bounty boards, with Trickstem investigating the town he wants to call home. Raali, meanwhile, had found the Fair Isles casino, and after being let in, helped the bouncers catch a cheater while also making a small profit for herself. Upon exiting, she came face to face with a group of trainee ninjas, and saved the life of the youngest by breaking her fall, albeit with her own body. Samara had an unusual encounter herself, as she met a local taxman, a small, well-dressed monkey named Coinpurse. Using the spell Comprehend Languages, she conversed with both Coinpurse and they pressing freely, before seeing a commotion starting up over the bounty board. Pixie and Codi had busied themselves with searching for the jobs listings, before discovering Milo was wanted for criminal damages to property. As Codi quickly scoffed the paper down to hide it from Pixie, a large black-scaled dragonborn named Kolger exited the bounty guild with a copy already in hand. After mistaking Codi for Milo, he walked off, annoyed at the duo's behavior, before spotting a familiar face in a back alley, grabbing and slamming Trickstem into a nearby wall, who he had blood with due to an incident we may cover sometime in the future. Codi quickly leapt to her friend's defense, knocking Koga over as Oni and Samara joined the group, while Trickstem fled. Noticing he was outnumbered, Koga turned to leave, only to stop next to Samara, noticing similarities between himself and her, mainly their half-blood in nature. Oni took advantage of this distraction, using his magic to quickly turn Koga's scales blue temporarily. Trickstem, meanwhile, had found himself in the clothing store, where he was greeted by a changeling, who gifted him an unusual compass. After a quick discussion on what should be done, the group, now joined by a gloating Raali and Trickstem once more, searched for Milo using the old Marco, Palo trick, only for their response to become muffled as they got closer. As they reached the back alley, they found Milo caught in a sack, so Red Kobold tried to carry him off, albeit unsuccessfully due to the shifting mass. After scaring him, the kobold smirked with a new confidence, as he pointed upwards to inform the party that his boss was here. The group followed the direction up with their eyes, as they laid-eyed. Laid-eyed? What do I know? I don't have eyes. As their eyes laid on the large serpentine figure of the head of the Assassin's Guild, Snipe. As he slithered down, he informed his kobold trainee that the bounty picture was incorrect, as he showed the Devil Darlings the picture, showing a Namr heavily scarred and missing one ear. Codi noticed the Namr picture, being one that she had been sketching herself since the visions. Retiring to the tavern for the night, known as the village, Codi interrupted the local bride, Freddy, to start performing herself, as Samara and Pixie were called over by a cloaked figure. Guess who? Session 12. And wouldn't you know it, the last session, before my orb started capturing it for all to see. The guide informed the two that the Namir in question had last been seen heading towards the mines near the Whispering Woods, holy ground that resided within the Whispering Woods and was home to the earth elemental Sphinx. Another bounty was located in the Whispering Woods as well, the target being a group of owlbear poachers. The guide, that's being me of course, had sent Krinlok, Foyn and Vashk to gather information, especially from the wandering dryads in Tome from the woods, about the poachers. After I request only to join the three, the group made their way to bed, with Pixie having to take a drunken Raali. All aside from Samara, that is. Samara stayed awake, was visited in the nights by Koga, who talked more about their half-parentage, with Koga revealing himself to be half-giant, while Samara kept hers hidden. Telling her she shouldn't have to hide it from her friends at least, Koga left, leaving Samara to fall asleep at her table. Morning came, and with it, Trickstem's guilt returned, as did a large hangover for Raali, who was helped by Pixie. Codi, meanwhile, rushed to the bounty board, finding Koga there. After avoiding being bopped on the head by a turkey leg, which he was having for breakfast, she quickly fed on his anger towards her, making him a bit more friendly, before asking politely for him to tear up the two bounties he had, which just so happened to be for the poachers and the Namir. Before she could leave, Koga asked her to say hello to Samara for him. Quickly heading back to the village, Codi tried her best to cheer up Trickstem. She relayed the information to Samara, with Raali trying to sneak some coffee, only to be given a small bout by Pixie. Quickly becoming hyper from it, the group left for the woods. Along the way, the compass Trickstem held started to activate, as the group were led towards the site of a dead adult owlbear. The group paid respects to the deceased, as Pixie checked over the murder weapon Raali had found, a poison dagger. And Trickstem found the object the owl was curled up around, a single egg. Codi slipped it into her holding space for protection. Don't ask where the holding space is. I don't even dare. It also provides some warmth though, luckily, so the egg should be in safe hands, or wherever it is. Codi quickly picked up on emotions coming from the northeast. Some happiness, then some frustration, then relief and a bit of smugness as they were quickly led towards the mines. With Pixie remembering to light a torch this time, the group quickly made their way through the tunnels, passing a few mine carts that were left abandoned, and the skeleton of a bugbear with his head missing. They found themselves in a large room with several bird statues, all dressed in armor, all wielding different weapons, from different swords to sickles, a flail, and others, each with a slot in their chests. At the end, the 11th statue depicted the skeleton of a bird person with a blunt stone dagger and a passage. Avenge me, for I have been slain. To pass through this door, you must dish out pain. My attacker has hidden himself as a knight, so strike the final blow, like a thief in the night. His weapon was mighty, but not great, something that sliced through my armored plate, a weapon simple, elegant in hand, fitting for my killer, a bird of the land. After several attempts and a few injuries, the party guessed correctly. If you wanted to know what the solution is, you will have to check session 13. And they were quickly led through, only to come face to face with the Namr in question, Eva Explosion, whom seemed to recognize Codi in turn, but both were unsure as to why. Realizing normal convincing wouldn't be enough to get her to leave, Codi challenged her to an arm wrestle, best of 3, and with a bit of help from Shadowmother, who was unusually brought forth by Raali, Codi managed to win. Samara, however, was more distracted by the sand pouring through the door and around the group as large figures rose up to surround them. And then, of course, we get to session 13. Krinlok and Oni managed to catch up to the rest, unfortunately having to go through the same puzzle. Oni, being quite the curious fellow he is, managed to figure out the puzzle, but still allowed Krinlok her chance. Krinlok, taking a few injuries, managed to eventually figure it out, to fall in on the others as the sand surrounded them, to form crude sand-like creatures. The creatures beckoned for the group to follow, down gem-crusted pathways, and into a large cavern, where they were greeted by this elemental of earth, the Sphinx. The Sphinx, being quite the eccentric fellow, challenged the group to a series of riddles. Of course, the group, being how they are, managed to succeed, and in return was gifted quite a few gemstones, as well as the advice to seek out the Oak Father and to help save the forest from its troubles. And as they moved their way outwards, they decided to follow the Sphinx's advice. And that is where we leave it now, as the group find their way towards the owlbear poachers. And of course, you know the rest of the story if you've been keeping up. And that is how the story started. I'm glad you could visit me in my parlor, and I hope to see you again sometime for some other stories.